Am I the butthole for having an investment account for my biological daughter while letting my husband make the financial decisions for my step-kids, resulting in no nest egg to give them? Edit. Well, this blew up, lol. So, to clarify a few things and answer repeated questions, my husband has talked to Lauren, and her biological mother has addressed this as well. Bio mom summed it up with, we provided for all of your essentials and all of your extras while you were under our roof and then some. What's the problem exactly? And while it wasn't my way of doing things, I think my husband and his ex-wife still gave their biological children a great start in life with a good education, a lot of college tuition and no debt to speak of moving into adulthood. The kids knew all along we had different ideas about spending and savings, and they were given options to work and save and invest as well. A lot of people have asked about the oldest brother and he avoided getting into the discussion at all, simply saying good for little sister. Also, the two oldest kids do know quite a bit about money management and investing and are not lazy or entitled, save for Lauren's strange reaction to this one situation. They both work hard and aren't what a person would call frivolous with their money, even though they spend a little differently than I personally would, or maybe even their younger sister. My husband and I, male 50, female 41, became a couple almost 20 years ago. He and his ex share 2 children. The kids, Lauren and Craig, were 5 and 7 when their dad and I got together. He and I also have 1 child together, she's currently 17. When we married, we decided we would pool finances, including money spent on the kids. We didn't always agree on how to spend, however. For example, he wanted his older kids to attend a private Christian school he and the ex picked early on, and he also wanted to purchase their cars and their cell phones etc. for them, whereas I was more inclined to encourage our youngest daughter to buy her own vehicle and work for her phone and so on. How we settled our differences financially was for me to deposit the amount of money my husband spent on the older kids' cars and phones and things into an investment account for our daughter, so each child was being given a fair and equal share. I also gave our daughter the option to spend things like birthday and babysitting money or invest it. We gave the older kids the same options, and oftentimes she would choose to go half and half. When she started working a job midway through high school, none of the kids were required to have jobs if they were in school and extracurricular activities. She decided to. She was already in the habit of saving and put a chunk of money away from each paycheck into her own savings as well. So there's all the background. Now here's where I'm questioning whether or not I'm the butthole. The investment account legally becomes our daughter's when she turns 18, which is coming up sooner rather than later. It's done extremely well over the years and she is going to have a very nice amount to spend on grad school or buying a home or whatever the heck she wants. Her own savings and her scholarships will take care of the vast majority of her undergrad tuition to boot. Anyway, older sister Lauren questioned her repeatedly on the value of the account, and when our youngest finally told her, Lauren became very upset. She is convinced her dad and I spent way more money on our youngest and snubbed her and her brother, despite the out-of-pocket spending for each kid being somewhat lopsided in the older kid's favor. She is insisting that my husband and I write her a check for roughly the same amount as the youngest's investment account is worth now. I had a conversation with her about how we arrived at spending and saving for each kid, but Lauren still insists on cheating her. Am I the butthole for not giving in and giving the older kids more at this point? Duh. You were fair, they were his children, and he chose to make the decisions he did. Not your fault. Original poster replies. That's part of the confusion for me. Lauren is specifically mad at me, not her dad. Apparently, I should have forced him to make different decisions. I definitely offered my 2 cents, but he and his ex wanted to parent a different way. Not the butthole. You're the easiest target for her, emotionally speaking. You're the step-parent. You had no power to force anything. And a sizable portion is your daughter's wages that she earned herself. Lauren is not entitled to any money from any of you. Don't give in to this behavior and stand firm if your husband tries to make you. Absolutely do not give in to that. It would be so unfair to your youngest daughter. I speak from experience. When I was a kid, I always saved my money. Money I got for birthdays and Christmases and from working, I always put in a savings account. I used that money to get a driver's license, roughly 2,000 euros in Germany at the time, and a computer when I finished school. My little sister always spent all her money on sweets, clothes, and makeup. When she finished school, she begged my parents to pay for her driver's license because she didn't have any money. They gave in. I was so pissed, and honestly, still am, more than 10 years later. Because if I knew that's how it goes, I could have had nice clothes and makeup and stuff as well. I felt like my sacrifices were useless. It also established with my younger sister a really effed up relationship with money. To this day, she spends more than she can afford, never saves up for anything, and comes running to family when there are unexpected expenses. Kids have to learn that if you spent all your money, there is no magical place to get more. It's just gone. I'm also the one that made the sacrifices and had the sibling get bailed out constantly. It sucks, and I'm also still miffed about it like 10 years later. Not the butthole. I am the sibling that has required bailing, through my own stupidity. I'm adult enough to admit that. My parents try their best to make it fair to the three of us. I can't say that it always works, but I do hope they don't harbor resentment or ill feelings because I'm a bit of a F up. Serious question, but how exactly is it fair? If they bail me out, they offer help to my siblings. Recent example being, fair to note I didn't ask for this, they helped me out with some white goods for my house, gave my brother money towards his car finance, and paid my sister's deposit on a holiday when we can travel again. I think the issue others are talking about is when a parent bails at a child at cost to another. For example, well, I know I promised you I'd help you get your first car, but Timmy was in jail for meth again and we couldn't just leave him in jail, so we used the money to bail him out. Sorry, pumpkin. I know that's a bit extreme, but hopefully you get my meaning. A bit extreme? Not really. I'm sure I've seen that exact tale on Reddit somewhere. Also, fair doesn't always mean perfectly equal distribution of resources. My sister got married young, had 2 kids, and then her husband abandoned her high and dry. Because that happened to her, I decided to wait for kids until both my husband and I had worked my way through school. It's not her fault her husband abandoned them, he had us all fooled. She worked hard, but things were tight, and I know my parents helped her sometimes pay the mortgage or pay for a plumber when her pipes broke. I didn't then stand there with my hand out expecting to be handed money. There's a difference between helping someone in a jam and enabling a freeloader. I have no idea how much money my sister got over the years, but I know she was working 2 jobs while being a single mom and rarely spending money on herself. My parents' resources aren't exactly limitless either, so if I demanded my share, I'd be limiting their ability to help my sister and, crucially, my niece and nephew. It sucks just as much when parents pick and choose which jams are worthy of them helping you as well. I'm the jam child a lot of the times, and there's been many occasions where I don't ask my mom for help and she insists on helping me, be it with money or not, and if I try to say no, it's a huge issue. And there's times where I've come to my parents practically on my knees begging for help and they turn their nose up at me. It's the same story with each of my siblings. I actually wish my parents were more consistent with their emotional neglect. Lol. I love your attitude. I am disabled, and so I've had more financial help than my sister, who was healthy and married young to someone earning well and is a decent bloke. She has had a lot of support in other ways, for example with childcare consistently over the years while I was off for several years at university and completing professional training. TBH, thinking about it, they also bailed her out financially when her husband was made redundant. Our parents have helped me out tremendously in the last few years as I got sicker. For example, they bought me a car as I couldn't walk much anymore and my car died. When I rang her excitedly to tell her, she hung up on me, telling me I was boasting despite her having a brand new car every few years and enjoying telling me all about it every time. She is so bitter about the financial support I have had, telling me that I am bleeding them dry, etc., but it's not so clear-cut. For example, I am living at home due to care needs, but I pay rent. She ignores the rent and tells everyone I'm leeching off them. Recently, she has become very poorly, and so their kids are here a lot while she waits for her operation. Our parents have also offered to contribute towards the cost of the original poster, which she refused as she said they don't need the money. So I really don't understand her years of bitching at me beyond jealousy. Sometimes offspring need different things from their parents, and you're exactly right, fair doesn't mean equal. White goods. What? Large appliances. The only people this is not fair to are your parents. They have to pay 3x the cost of bailing you out every time. I'm the sibling who had to take on 2 extra kids because my sister effed up. F depression, but the poor little me bullcrap has to stop somewhere. Also, I am not attacking you, but venting my frustrations. I'm the oldest and expected to be perfect in all aspects. My younger brother, though? Drugs, jail, teen pregnancy, and my dad has literally given H everything he wants. Meanwhile, while I was saving to move, I was asked for a loan for new hardwood floors in my dad's house. Because I lived there and should have been contributing. You think he bothered asking my brother? Similar story here, except I was the younger sibling who was more responsible. Have always paid my way, started working part-time just before I turned 14, I'm about to turn 39, then moved out before 18 because of my older brother's issues with drugs and violence and my parents' refusal to deal with it and stop bailing him out. I've never returned home, put myself through university etc. and my older brother is almost 41 and still lives with my parents and they still bail him out, always have, which has cost them tens of thousands of dollars if not more over the years. The sense of entitlement still makes me sick. Wait, it costs €2,000 to get a driver's license? Is it because you have more public transportation? In the States, it's $60 to get one. Yeah. Sign-up fee, mandatory course to learn rules, road signs, first aid. Fee for the theory exam. Mandatory driving lessons. In the city. On the highway. At night. Between cities. Parallel parking. Most cars in Germany have a stick shift. Fee for the practical driving test. All people from the States I know can't drive stick shift, and it is somehow agreed upon that new drivers actually suck at driving. That is not the case in Germany. If you get your license, you can actually drive. You know the rules, you know how to operate the vehicle. I think it's worth it. Because of social inequality, I still think it should be possible to get financial assistance because for a lot of jobs you need to have a license, but that is a different issue. The thing is that most of those things are required in America as well. You take a driver's education course in high school for a year, you take a written driver's exam with rules of the road, you have to complete 6 hours of driving with an instructor, have to drive all around, including highway as well, you take an actual driver's test that includes parallel parking, where I am at least, and it's like less than $100 by the end. People say young drivers are bad because of their age, leading them to be more careless, mostly. I think any state that allows people to drive at 15 is bonkers, but that's not the case where I am. And stick-shift cars are not common here whatsoever, so there's not a reason to have to learn it ever. I don't know, I think very old drivers are far worse than young drivers are. Correction on the cost, forgot that the 6 hours also costs money, so that's an additional $300, $400. Been a while. Also ETA, requirements for driving instruction per state varies a lot more than I thought. This is in NJ for context. That must be different state to state, or maybe things have changed. I grew up in rural PA and we had driver's ed in high school, true, but there were no requirements after that but time. I also didn't have to parallel park, and didn't learn to drive stick until after I was 40 and left knee surgery, and I'm terrible at it. Sometimes it hurts to manipulate the clutch correctly. She thinks she can divide and conquer, is she wrong? Original poster replies. She's wrong. Then this needs to be his fight with her. Totally agree with the other response to this. You need to talk to her with your husband and outline everything in this post. The husband wanted to buy cars and send the kids to private school. Every time they were offered birthday money, they had the option of investing and chose not to. The option to get a job and save has always been there, and the youngest opted to do it. You and the husband need to explain this to her. If it comes from you, she is more likely take it as the evil stepmother trying to rip her off. Make her a spreadsheet and tell her that she can be as mad as she wants, but it is what it is. Also, life isn't fair. Her father decided to spend on spoiling her, and you taught your kid to save for tomorrow. That's the way she goes. Honestly, your husband's the butthole. He chose private school and cars for his kids over savings for when his kids were older. He made horrible decisions with money on their behalf, and I understand why your stepkids are upset. They're just upset with the wrong person. They should be upset with their father. You had no control over how he spent money on them. Original poster replies. I don't know that I would call him a butthole. He spent money on his kids the way a lot of parents do, providing for them while they were under his roof and then allowing them to handle themselves as adults when they became adults. And no one was upset or bothered by it until about a week or so ago. Were your stepchildren given the option to quit private school and put that money in savings instead? Original poster replies. We actually did have that discussion with them starting around middle school, but by that point they were attached to their school and their friend group, and I can't really blame them for not wanting to leave. That, and their mother had it drilled into their heads that they would get beat up or murdered by subjecting themselves to the terrors of public education. Lol. So their parents are still the butthole, not you. It makes no sense to ask a child that young to make this kind of financial decision because they won't be able to comprehend fully what they're giving up. It also makes no sense to pay so much money for your child's education early on without saving for their future. It also makes no sense to pay so much money for your child's education early on without saving for their future. Private school is an investment in the child's future, just a different kind. The benefit of an expensive private school isn't a superior education, that may or may not be the case, it's the social setting. You surround your kids with other kids whose parents can afford that school, thus setting them up to build connections early on with people who have money and who will likely continue to have money after they graduate. A good network is just as valuable as a savings account. This is so true, but unfortunate that majority of kids at that age won't be able to recognize the benefits until well after the fact. This is part of the whole "it's not what you know, but who you know" concept that is becoming ever more important. While the people might not be able to give direct money, the opportunities they may be able to provide, and even influence, can definitely go a long way. Normally I'd agree, but I know firsthand how the majority of Christian private schools teach, and I'm pretty sure they weren't getting enough on their future through it. If anything, a bit of the opposite. Edit, where I'm from, Christian is distinctly different from Catholic. My bad for the misunderstanding, I'm referring to evangelical Christian schools. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube and share them with your friends. We welcome your comments below. Press to start another of our videos.